Hi and welcome to the Skeptical Leftist podcast, the show where I talk to a variety of people to spread critical thinking, progressive politics, and left-wing philosophy. And today I'm joined by Seamus.
Hey,
Thanks for joining me.
it's great to be here, man.
So you messaged me, you want to talk about anarchism. I'm always open to talking about that. But I guess, yeah, like before we get into it, I guess like you have a podcast YouTube channel.
Right. Yes.
So what is that?
It's called The Jib. It's hosted by me and Barry Purcell. So we talk about the CIA, FBI, basic law enforcement, the shenanigans they've kind of gotten up to. We try to do it in a real practical way. We're not like getting into like the whole Alex Jones conspiracy stuff as little as possible. You know what I mean? We're getting the actual material to back up what we're claiming.
Right. Like the CIA, the CIA and FBI are shady enough. Like you don't need to do conspiracy.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? The various coups we've done, but like the show's title actually, why we call it The Jib is kind of spelled out in the first episode. Whenever the CIA was trying to have agents in Moscow, kind of making some headway and meeting with double agents, they noticed the KGB was always following them. So they wanted to try to have a situation where they'd be able to bail out of the car and still continue as if there was two people. So what they did was they got a sex doll and put it in a briefcase, and the passenger would bail out on a blind turn, and then they would hit the suitcase and then inflate like a fake person,
Okay.
It'd be enough as a decoy, and they called it The Jib, as in Jack in the Box. So once we came across that story, like, oh yeah, that's the name of the show. So,
yeah, that's gold there.
Yeah, and then we also do we've been starting like a little sub podcast of it called the Founding Feckheads, where we basically try to destroy the myth that the founding fathers were somehow these like token saints of just entrusted brilliance, when they were just monsters, by every metric, even their own at the time. So we just finished Thomas Jefferson, which will come out the day after we're done recording this, I guess. So,
cool.
Probably by the time everybody sees this, it'll be already out. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, so we're recording on January 25th for anybody to reference for that. Yeah,
just before the next bell rides or whatever is going to happen next. One or both of us will be in the gulag.
Yeah, well, being in Canada, I'm pretty okay for a little
safe.
while. Yeah.
You think you are now.
At least until either Polyev gets into power or we become a 51st state.
Yeah, why wouldn't you want to be the 51st state? What's your problem?
Yeah, it's not as though we would lose our health care or our social safety nets.
Calm down. It's not that big a deal. Come on.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. No,
and this just, by the way, I'm just wearing this hat because I'm trying to gear myself up for marriage.
For sure. No, for sure. Yeah, there's no endorsement of CEO murder going on here.
No. We'll talk later.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I guess to get us started, like, what were you thinking you wanted to talk about anarchism?
Well, I mean, where do you think that's going to actually, if any sort of anarchism is actually going to play out in the current situation, as far as the U.S., Canada,
I think it's a collapse kind of thing. Like, I guess there's a couple ways, right? Like, so I think of anarchism as the day-to-day stuff that people are currently doing, like community fridges, mutual aid networks, community gardens. Like in my hometown or the town where I live now, we have a night crew that goes out and they hand out water to, they hand out water to homeless people, and they have first aid kits and naloxone kits for anybody who's overdosing. So that's go awesome. Out and that's your practicing anarchism in the system that exists. And do
you foresee it increasing though, at least, and as we're getting more fascist movements in, both our countries at this point.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, for sure. We need more people doing that. And there seems to be an increase of people who see the need for mutual aid and stuff like that anyway. Like, yeah, I mean, not that everybody calls himself an anarchist and not everybody's read theory, right? But they all, like, there's groups and groups of people from all kinds of backgrounds who are involved in various mutual aid programs. So I see that getting bigger all the time. And as prices go up, as things get harder for regular people to survive, I see that as really, really a backbone of how we keep going.
Yeah, people are really starting to flip out here because of all the egg prices and all these, things that were promised as, being bastions of change, under the Trump regime have already dwindled away, and they just, don't understand. Yeah. Fucker was lying to you. What do you expect?
Yeah, that's right.
So just nothing was going to change. It was only going to get worse.
No wonder he can't just change the price of eggs.
Right.
Like that's a thing. And the funny, like it really strikes me as, I guess, funny, not funny. The tariffs, right? Like the tariffs that he promises to impose on China, Canada, Mexico, especially Canada and Mexico. Like that's just going to hurt the U.S. economy.
Oh, absolutely.
Because NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, basically gave Canada and Mexico the shaft to fucking supply America with resources.
Yeah.
So you want to tariff those things, you're throwing that out the window. So I mean that's his call, I guess. But
your former prime minister tried to warn him, but for some reason he didn't listen to him. I don't know why.
So, yeah, he doesn't. Well, it does not surprise me that somebody like Donald Trump, who purports the free market, doesn't actually understand economics.
Well, unless he can file bankruptcy or something.
That's right.
He knows those laws really well. So
yeah, the stuff that he can use for his benefit, but like macroeconomics, he doesn't have a fucking clue. Yeah,
but it's just you're seeing so much criminalization of just any sort of opposition.
That's true.
And unfortunately, the opposition actually has fall. I mean, it's always going to be.
Yeah,
but the gigantic fall to the ground is just amazing. We have, the so-called opposition party of the Democrats who have just absolutely, first off, if you thought Biden was the bastion of, some sort of left-wing politics, I can't help you.
Yeah,
I don't have the crayons and the time to explain it to you that he was, to the, as far right-wing as you get. I mean, I'll die on the hill that as far as, so far, if you look at his entire career, he may single-handedly be more destructive than any other politician because he was on the side and cast of so many things that went wrong for this country. And I'm talking about just as president. Genocide's bad enough, but you go back to the rest of his freaking career. I mean, somebody like, and what do? They set up this basic police state. All the COVID money and stuff, everything was left over. Everything went to the cops.
Yeah.
Everything went to expand to more cops. They saw BLM and answered it by empowering the police state.
Yep.
It's just, and then now they're all kissing the ring on top of it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. The media down there, well, and up here too, like they constantly, after BLM in 2020, they talking about, defunding the police. The Democrats are defunding the police when all they ever did was increase the funding to the police.
Yeah. And it's just an incredible gaslight that, they try to impose. Like even like right after the election, you had people on, all of the, media outlets, MSNBCs and CNN, all trying to say that, the Harris campaign lost because they tried to, embrace left-wing ideology.
Too woke.
Yeah, exactly. They were super woke because they were pro-trans and all this. It's like, when did she ever say anything about trans people? When did she ever come out and say anything? In fact, Biden signed shit in the law to fuck trans people. So where are you guys at? You're trying to gaslight us and shit on the, a fucking minority that needs more help than anybody right now.
Yeah.
You're emboldening just, terrible draconic laws that's coming out now. And you got people on that side of the party going along with it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's so gross.
Yeah. Like, what was it? Trying to think when did they placate the wokeness? Like, was it when Liz Cheney was on the campaign trail? Like,
exactly.
Like, I'm just when even one time is it just because she's a black woman then she suddenly becomes woke, but like it
Yeah,
has nothing to do with her.
I guess that's a metric that they go by, right?
Has nothing to do with ideology or policy or anything. Eh?
That's it's on par with like saying that the bombs that Obama dropped were woke because he was black. It's the same.
Right.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
Yep, for sure.
I can't, you know. Uh, and him, Biden in his farewell address, beware the oligarchy. It's like freaking Eisenhower saying, beware the military-industrial complex. The people I just
Yeah.
been propping up my whole career, same
Yeah.
thing.
That's right.
This
I
is
couldn't
just
believe that when like, what are you talking about? You're literally the oligarchy.
yeah,
What the fuck?
insane.
Yeah.
I mean, is Canada kissing the ring of Musk, President Musk or Emperor Musk or whatever? Chancellor Musk, I guess.
Chancellor Musk. Yeah. That's, the state generally does. They all, and right now, like, so there's a bit of a dispute because of Amazon, actually, with Bezos, because there's an Amazon in Quebec that wants, or there was a warehouse in Quebec that wanted to unionize, and they voted to unionize, and then Amazon shut it down. And like apparently, because of the way that the laws work, that's not illegal.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then the state and the government, they just obviously they suck up and they're like, oh no, yeah, we're sorry that this happened, and here's some more tax cuts. Because like the U.S. and Canada, we worship the rich, right? Like the states work with and worship the rich, so it doesn't matter. Yeah.
I can't imagine foreseeing any giant change though. I mean, you had this so-called socialist movement, the Democratic ranks, with the Social Democrats and all, I'd say all but two at this point that pretty much, come out to be absolute frauds. Iliomar and Rashid Tlaib, I think, are the only real ones.
Yeah.
And not that they're perfect by any means, but by far, the most
miles
honest.
ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. The rest, it's terrible. There's nobody there. Nobody.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's frustrating because this is, so I don't know how much you know about anarchist theory, but this is.
Oh, I'm far behind. Trust me. I'm literally reading. I'm like 1/3 of the way through the Conquest of Bread.
Okay.
And that's what really. I mean, I've listened to podcasts that are very friendly, right? Anarchist. Margaret Killjoy's probably my hero at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
But when I started, and I think it was her that mentioned compactness. And then whenever I started, listening to that, I was like, man, like this guy's miles away from Marx. I mean, ahead. You know what I mean? He's making a whole lot more sense than that. So.
I tend to think that as well, but but I know lots of people still really like Marx, so I try to, you try to be fair to them.
And not that there's, Marx was totally wrong with shit. I mean, you're going to find commonality in all these folks, but
for sure,
I just, and again, theory is theory, but I mean, so far, I'm pretty blown away by a lot of stuff.
Well, and I think too, like everybody's going to have something different that they resonate with. Like, like maybe Marx is really good for a particular, person who likes to read math or like in-depth complex theory, where like Kropotkin is more like, yeah, we're going to expropriate the means of production from the ruling class. Like, yeah. No, it's.
I mean, besides mutual aid, can you think of any other practical examples of anarchism currently that's going on?
Well, I mean, that's kind of the main one that happens because we currently live in the system of. I mean, not to say because Rojava is like a democratic confederalist society, right? Yeah. And so it's similar to anarchism in a variety of ways. It's very horizontal, very like democratically run without any with as little hierarchy as they can. There is in anarchist theory, there's a little bit of like leeway for hierarchy within military situations.
Sure, that makes sense.
And and like so Rojava is always under siege, basically. Yeah. So they have a certain amount of hierarchy within that.
So I think the other problem is, I mean, the dumbed down effect. And again, I am, like kindergarten level at this. Okay, at least when it comes to anarchism. But I think as far as understanding a lot of propaganda around a lot of these things, I think I'm pretty well versed.
Right.
Because the idea that somebody like a Kamala Harris or Joe Biden is a communist,
Yeah.
or that AOC is a socialist,
Yeah.
these are just words, and people just, they don't understand that that's not anything anywhere near that. I mean, make the argument about the structure in China is to actually, is it really communist? Is it, really not? It's like, people still think that the USSR was, communist, which
in my head,
wasn't
communist
really.
countries, yeah. In my head, communist countries don't have billionaires. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I just was talking to somebody earlier today about this, but I'm an anarchist who's very, like, I give a lot of leeway to the USSR based on
Sure.
like the context that was going on at the time, the interference from outside states, and the struggle of various famines and the World War II and all this stuff. But I see some of the actions they took, like the suppression of the Kronstadt rebellion, and you go, yeah, but you just outright murdered a bunch of people that were still on your side, who just wanted you to be more democratic. so yeah. So like I say, I give the USSR a lot of leeway, but also it was not what I would ever advocate for.
No, and there was a lot of obvious top-down issues there because you had,
Yeah.
various different tyrants. It kind of depended upon who was in charge of the party, so to speak.
Yeah, that's right. Like,
so
yeah, anarchists tend to blame Trotsky specifically for the
Sure.
Kronstadt rebellion, but also like Lenin was no hero of mine.
Oh, Jesus, no.
And then things got way worse when Stalin was in power. So
yeah. What did Marx say to Lenin about establishing a communist state? All you did was steal the means of production and give it to the state. Is that what he basically said?
That sounds right,
Something like
but
that. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Which kind of I kind of agree with you on that one, Marx, at least in that argument. But,
yeah. Like my co-host Justin, he knows way more about the actual Marx and USSR history than I do. I've always focused so much on anarchism that's kind of my bag. But yeah, as far as like if we could ever reach like an anarchist society within the United States or Canada, I mean, that's far after the collapse, right?
Yeah.
Because what we say is that, like, so any anarchist revolution requires an extended period of education beforehand. And it's usually a social revolution rather than a rising up with arms kind of thing.
Right.
One of the phrases that you hear a lot is like building the new within the ashes of the old. So like when society collapses and is falling apart, we're working on building organizations and communities and mutual aid networks that can support people and can help each other in a way.
So, I mean, not to be a downer, but you think we're like my home state, West Virginia, we're like 50 years behind at times? As in, we should have been doing this 50 years ago because, especially, global warming climate change, I kind of think we literally might have ashes if that.
Yeah, that's true. We will. I'm sure that we're all in big trouble as far as that's concerned. And, I don't know that we'll ever actually achieve the anarchist society that I would love to see, but it's a project that I feel is worth striving towards. And if we can, within generations, maybe whoever's left can have a society where they actually treat people well.
So, what's his name? Professor Richard Wolff? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I was listening to something that he was talking about, but I mean, he was kind of saying basically you have to make a choice where we can either all kind of just get along and enjoy, because, he's just like, hey, look, it's over. If you don't realize it, it's over. America is over. So you have to either make up your mind, as we spiral down the drain, are we all going to get along, or is it knives out on the way down?
Yeah.
Really, what's going to make it better? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I kind of want to choose violence, that kind of, that's what your gut tells you, because, geez, whose fault is this is happening?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's not going to help.
I, in some ways, I'm like, So
not that I'm calling for violence anymore. I'm just saying, just to be clear.
Yeah, that's right. There's a strain of anarchism, like anarcho-nihilists. I'm not sure if you've heard of that. They kind of just go with the destruction of society is happening. And like the only thing left is to just live your freedom and be the best person you can be, I guess, is kind of the idea I've gotten from them. I have trouble with that hopelessness because I still try and, I still believe that there can be a better world for everybody. But yeah, everybody's kind of got to take their own approach to that. And if you are a person who has the means, the capability, and the drive to do something like a Luigi, then I'm not going to condemn you.
Oh,
right?
No, no.
But I'm also not that guy. So for me, it's do what I can, and I'm not good at this either because I work too much and I've got a bunch of kids and so I don't have time, but I do try and spend as much as I can working with the local organization. So
having kids and looking at the future is not very.
Yeah,
it's very sobering.
It's an existential dread every single day.
Yeah. And the other thing is, my son's trans.
Oh,
so after stuff that's come out this week, I'm just like, you just want to leave now? What do you want to do? Because it's either Ireland or Canada is where we're thinking. But he's more optimistic than I am.
Is that right? That's good.
I'm scared to death for him.
So that is rough.
He's got a better head on his shoulders than I do, for sure.
Well, that's good. That's always helpful when the young are like optimistic and like they can see something that's better ahead. Like, my son is a bit of a pessimist.
Okay.
which is probably my, a little bit my fault, plus what he sees online.
Yeah.
And my daughter, that's right. My daughter is much more optimistic. She wants to go and be a lawyer. She's going to university now. She wants to learn how to help people because the system, it exists until it doesn't, right? We're in. And then we got to figure out a way to deal with that. But
so what do you think about anarchism and the atheist community? And to be clear, I'm not really a part of the atheist community anymore. And I've never been happier. I ended the show that, we did part of that because of basically a bigoted person that was a part of that show.
Right.
Literally, I took down the whole.
Oh, it doesn't even exist online anymore?
No, I mean, you could go on and look, the channel's still there, but there's none of the videos there. So, because I couldn't.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I find like a lot of times a person will hit a breaking point where like, I kind of did with the atheist community like a few years ago, right? Where it was like, okay, I'm kind of here, but I'm kind of not. And then, like I found that the rejection of any real progressive politics that seemed to permeate the culture there, like I couldn't be a part of it at all.
Absolutely. That's the same thing with me, man. I mean, anytime and this is across the board though, right? In social media especially, if you criticize the holier than thou Democrats, you're automatically a Trumper. You're supporting Trump. And even if you don't like Trump, your criticism is going to elect Donald Trump. So therefore, you are the enemy. I have been called a Russian bot. I don't know how many times. I changed my profiles on all of my social media to Rasputin to fuck with people because I'm like, sure, I might as well be one,
Sure,
whatever.
Sure.
It's ridiculous. It's just absolutely insane.
I even got it on, like, usually I'm not on Facebook anymore, but I even got it on Blue Sky from a...
Sorry, my camera went locked for some reason.
I even got it on Blue Sky from a liberal. Well, I think he's a liberal. Yeah, because he's like, I posted something about Trudeau shutting down the postal strike up here.
Okay.
And I said, this is why he's going to lose the election. It's because he doesn't care about workers.
Yeah.
And like, of course, out of the woodwork, here comes this liberal. Oh, yeah, you doing India and Russia's job for him. Like, fuck, whatever, man. Like, if you can't criticize your leaders, then there's something fucking wrong.
Yeah. And, I had people, I lost a couple friends over this, or at least people I thought were friends. And one of them's a, YouTuber in the atheist community because he went on a big tirade about how, everybody needs to donate to the Democratic Party. The only way we're going to beat Trump is to give them money. And I'm like, how could you give them money with, the people who are doing genocide?
Yeah,
I can't do that. I can't do that. You know what I mean? And I don't live in a swing state, so it really doesn't matter what I do. I didn't vote. People. That was our thing. I was like, well, your son's blood is on your hands. Fuck you.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. I live in a fucking red state. I live in fucking West Virginia, bro.
Right.
Come on.
Yeah, that's right.
My vote wasn't going to change shit. If it did, I would have thought about it. I'm not saying I would have. Honestly, probably not, because I can't. Genocide's a bridge I can't cross.
Right.
It's just too far. And all you fuckers told us that it was our fault because we supported Bernie in 16 and in 20, even though you guys won. It was still our fault for some reason, right?
That's right.
And then now anybody that didn't vote or voted for Jill Stein, it's our fault. Jill Stein had nothing to do with the election. In any of
it. Essentially.
Maybe like you said, kissing the ass of the Cheneys, that's kind of a problem. Having people go up to Michigan and tell all the brown people that you're not really brown if you don't vote for these people. While they're committing crimes against you, you just need to suck it up.
It's not going to work. Yeah, it's not going to work.
I just don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I say, that's I guess why I have no faith in electoralism as it is. Like, so it's like Democrats to me are basically the same as Republicans in a lot of ways. Like Justin says it all the time, like America has two right-wing parties.
Yep.
So,
yeah. I mean, it really started under Jimmy Carter, believe it or not, because he started the Big Tent policy.
Yeah.
And I didn't really think about that till recently. I think it might have been the Levers. I don't know if you're a follower of the Lever David Sirota stuff. He started doing master plan about the Powell memorandum that kind of set the blueprint for what's been going on with the Supreme Court and getting the oligarchs to actually take over, so to speak. It was all set in motion, during Nixon. And and freaking, I don't know if I'm not saying Carter consciously did it,
right?
But he definitely started that. You know what I mean? And he had freaking Reagan came in, who until possibly now was the most transformative president ever, because he was a setting stone, and we're on like the 12th version of him since. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Because the first Bush basically was a carbon copy of him in a lot of ways worse, because did his own little genocide in Nicaragua, right? And not to mention all the Iran-Contra stuff he did with Reagan. Then you had Bill, which was their version of Reagan, right?
Yep.
Who signed that?
Tough on crime. Yeah.
Tough on crime. And then what you had Bush W.
Yeah.
Who started the wars, and then you had Obama come in, who was the Black Reagan. Gave more power to the state, to the banks, bailed the banks out, and started expanding the wars.
Yeah.
And then of course we got the freaking the Orange Clown show.
Yeah. No, it's just been a downhill trek for many, many decades.
Yeah. I mean, it's messed up. You think about it. Some have been won. A lot of he won. I mean, you think about it, like what he did, taking down those towers caused, so much damage. It just gave a green light to the state to do all kinds of this crazy shit that they hadn't done in decades before.
Yeah. Sacrifice all civil rights. All privacy is gone. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was right with Bundy at that time. I was still a Christian asshole. Not that you could be a decent Christian. I'm just saying I was an asshole.
Right.
Yeah. And I remember being kind of like radicalized by 9/11.
Sure.
And people that I would consider right wing now were like talking about the Patriot Act, and they're like, "Oh fuck no!" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And they're like, "Do you want to lose your rights?" And I'm like, "Well, we got to do what's right." And it just like went right over my head, because I was so just entrenched with it. So,
Yeah, I can't say I was like, so when the towers fell, it was 2001, 24 years old. So I was, I wasn't a conservative, but I was apolitical in a sense. And then I adopted conservatism after that.
Okay.
And so I was pretty on board with a lot of the things that the U.S. state was doing and like Canada's support of it. And I was like, I mean, I made fun of America for calling them freedom fries, but
oh yeah, yeah.
But I was
we did that back in like was it the Revolution times too? We did something the same fucking thing. We've never changed. We've always been shitheads, you know, like that.
It's just like, you know, we're not using the word French anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so I kind of went through that a bit, and I mean, I'm glad I came out the other side. But it took a lot of learning and a lot of time, right? But
oh yeah, you know, I'm almost 10 years removed from being law enforcement, and you know, I talk to cops now, you know, very limited if I can,
as little as possible.
Yeah, but you know, guys I knew, well, some people I knew that are like adjacent to law enforcement because I really don't talk to anybody I used to work with. They still talk to me like I'm a cop, and I'm like, dude, I have more in common with Antifa than I do any fucking cop.
Yeah,
you know, out there. Fuck that shit, you know.
Yeah,
you know, I start talking stuff, and I look fucking crazy. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just not a bootlegger.
Yep, that's got to get that taste of boot out of there.
I would say probably like the last 2 or 3 years of what I was like an alien. You know what I mean?
Pretty much
like,
out of it. Yeah,
yeah. I was like, you know, trapped in like bee costume or something. You know, I was like,
right. Yeah, it's like, do you watch That Dang Dad on YouTube?
No, I haven't watched.
He's a former cop. He talks a lot about anti-fascist stuff. And
cool.
It's pretty good.
Cool. Yeah. What's it called again?
That Dang Dad.
That Dang Dad. Okay, I'll have to remember that.
Pretty sure that's the channel. Yeah, okay. I'll look it up. If that's not it, I'll send you a link.
Awesome.
But yeah,
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because there's almost no real roadmap for what can happen. As much as I would have liked to say we could have stopped fascism from rising up, it did. And I wasn't ready. I wasn't prepared for it in the way that I would hope that I would be. But yeah, all you can do is support your local organizations. And I find like I don't buy into like a lot of the vanguardism or like the communist parties because they still invest in like electoralism. They run candidates. Sometimes they do really good stuff on the ground too. But I really think that the only way to really keep moving forward is to be involved in like help organizations.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, I still have an interest in, obviously, you know, stuff. It's hard to turn it off. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's right.
But, you know, especially...
Still watching all the shit, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're still all invested at some level, right?
Yeah.
But, yeah, absolutely. How we'll survive if we don't, you know, in some capacity. I mean, the one, I'd say one of the saving graces that I've seen in the past 5 to 10 years is a big movement, labor movement, I can speak, down here, especially like somebody like Sean Fain. You know what? If you want to win an election, that's who you need to run, you know, or somebody exactly like him.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, somebody who, charismatic, has a real passion for it, and actually sticks true to their principles.
Yeah,
like that's the thing that politicians don't do, is they don't stick true to their supposed value.
Yeah,
like you see up here, we've got the conservatives, the liberals, and the NDP. Basically, I mean, there's the Green Party and there's a couple other parties, but basically those are your main three. And
do you guys have choice voting?
No, we don't. We're still first past the post. Yeah.
Okay.
So there it is again, right?
Yeah.
Trudeau was supposed to install a different type of, I think it was ranked choice is what he wanted, or maybe it was a proportional representation.
Okay.
But yeah, either of those doesn't work for the party that has power, so they never want to do it when they're in power. They always want to talk about it when they're not. Yeah, but we've got the conservatives who are now basically like fascist light.
Yeah.
We've got the liberals who are conservatives, and we've got the NDP who are liberals.
Okay.
So, even though the NDP started as a socialist party, ostensibly, you know, they've pulled so far to the right, and now you've got like old liberal guys talking about the current Liberal Party as though it's too woke. And that needs to pull, we need to pull to the center, which is already way over to the left of you.
Yeah, the Overton window has been shifted so far to the right, especially down here. I mean, you think about it. I mean, Biden, Obama. I mean, we've talked about how that they're basically Reagan, but they are to the right of Reagan.
Yeah,
so many issues.
Yeah,
they're to the right of Richard fucking Nixon. I mean, what the fuck, man? It's insane.
Yeah, no, for sure. If you saw some of the environmental policies that Nixon had, or that even Reagan had, now, back in, like now those would be looked at as crazy lefty policy.
Yeah, it's nuts. I know a lot of people down here kind of Genospa kind of painted as either, a bastion, perfect example of what modern liberalism should be, or he's an authoritarian. Where do you draw the line?
I just think he sucks. I think he's a status quo politician. Like, he's just another guy who we could have had a blow up doll in place, right? Like, it wouldn't have made any difference because the Liberal Party just did the same as always. The only thing that they ever did that was interesting is because they had the NDP pull them that way so that they wouldn't vote non-confidence and get them out of power.
Okay.
So, which, of course...
I think the one thing that a lot of people point to is him being an authoritarian, at least down here, is the whole trucker strike and all that stuff.
Right.
That went down. So,
which, obviously, I think he crossed the line there, but I can't see any other liberal politician not doing the same.
Yeah.
So, like, is he more of an authoritarian than any other? I mean,
that's fair.
We live in essentially an authoritarian version of democracy. Like, it's supposedly like representative, but like these people make decisions we have no say in. And I mean, to me, that's authoritarian.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of people up there like, what's his name? Ogelbon? Is that his name? The Hungarian prime minister that's super fash.
I don't even know.
Okay. Because like a lot of the Republicans have brought him. In fact, I believe he was supposed to be a speaker. I don't know if he ever was. I didn't look into this, but like C-SPAN or CPAC, that C-SPAC that they always get together for, the big GOP douchebags get together and, suck each other's off, I think he was supposed to be there, but I mean, he's like incredible fash. It's just amazing. Like, they're openly doing this and then they're saying that they're not fascists. It's like, are you kidding me?
No, it's funny because you'll even get arguments on the left about whether or not Trump is fascist or the right is fascist. And it's like, at some point, it doesn't even really matter, right? Like, because their policies are going to harm everyday people and especially marginalized and underprivileged people. Like, it's just going to be bad all around. So call it a fascist or not, like, he's fucking bad. And I got accused of giving a pass to liberal politicians by calling Trump a fascist.
Yes. Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
And I'm like, well, no, I still think they're shit too. Yeah. I'm allowed to think he's a fascist and think they're garbage.
Yeah, you can't win, right?
Yeah.
I got a lot of shit because, the whole genocide drove me nuts. I mean, like, all my social media, it's all I'm putting on there.
Yeah.
Is speaking out against it because I don't know what else to do, right?
Yep.
But then the minute Trump takes office and I'm still bitching about this stuff and I'm calling him a fascist, then somehow I'm, a problem.
Yeah.
Like, why? It's like, well, where were you? And I'm like, bitch, have you looked at my, my social media?
Yeah.
That's
right.
It's, I mean, I'm not the same as the people who are like, oh, the kids in cages are really bad under Trump. And then when Biden came in, what? I don't know what you're talking about. What's going on?
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
There's no kids in cages. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's the same shit. Same shit. And then now you're going to have the same thing with, Republicans doing the same.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, yeah, so it seems like the Republicans ramp it up and then the Democrats come in and they're like, yeah, we're just going to leave this. And then the Republicans come in and ramp it up a little more. And then the Democrats come in and go, oh, yeah, we're going to leave that. Like, so it just never gets better. It always gets worse for anyone trying to cross the border. And those are, I mean, people don't just leave their homes for no reason.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's the thing I don't get. Like,
yeah, and we might have had something to do in the reason why they're leaving their country.
quite often,
I mean,
yeah.
we have a pretty good track record of being shit to everything south of the border and causing a lot of conflicts down there. I mean, pretty good history of that.
Yep, for sure.
Even recent history. But, it's hard to say. I mean, I always get, the argument of whether or not the Democrats are complicit or just imbeciles. And I think the thing is that they are a bit of both. Like, they're complicit to the idea of, these policies are going to help our donors. They're going to help the business. But I don't think they saw it as a clear path to fascism, right?
Right.
A clear path to grab. Or that also they're so goddamn arrogant that they just, we're going to win. We're going to win.
I'm not convinced they wanted to.
Well, that's fair too, right? Yeah.
If I wanted to win an election, I don't think I would have pulled farther right. I don't think I would have done half the things they did. So
yeah.
I'm not an expert, but apparently neither are they. So.
Yeah. And there's a lot of conjecture about some people that that were in the DNC, because I guess you have to stay in line with certain things of the DNC if you're the actual nominee, right? So, and a lot of those people were in the Hillary Clinton camp. There's a little bit of a conspiracy, although it's been kind of reported by people that probably would know, or at least have pretty good sources, that Hillary is a very spiteful bitch and did not want the first woman to not be her.
Wow.
I don't know. That's interesting. I can absolutely believe that. Especially you saw how Bill Clinton spoke to people.
Yeah.
Trying to get them to vote. That was like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah. No, I can almost see it.
It makes you wonder.
It's bad reasoning, but I could see her doing that, right? Like, because obviously there's got to be, she's never going to be the president. There's got to be a woman president someday. So why would she be against this one being the woman president? But
and so people like her and all the pundits that are on all those networks that are boo-hooing about it, they're not going to be affected by any of this shit.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter to them. To them, this is just like the Super Bowl or a soccer game or whatever that their team lost.
Yeah,
their billionaires lost. That's all it is. They don't care. The other pushback is that the standard business people. Somebody else said this recently, that it was kind of like a cold civil war in a way between the businesses, as the standard form of businesses, and the oligarch, especially the tech boys, because you saw who took power.
Right.
And that's where a lot of the tears are flowing from, because they're worried about how that's going to fall. Well, let's be honest. All those people were fucking idiots. Does anybody really think that Elon Musk, would you trust Elon Musk with anything? Would you trust him with a down payment on a free lunch? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
I mean, come on. Besides the fascist Nazi nonsense of his,
right.
He's just an absolute flaming idiot. I do not know how. We do know how. It's a lot of, failing upwards in this wonderful capitalist society we have. It's amazing.
For sure. It's he's a demonstration, like he's living proof that you don't have to be a smart person to be catered to by the media or to make billions of dollars.
Right.
Like, it's like more than anybody in the whole world, his show demonstrates that. It's not a merit-based system.
Yeah, it's three psychopaths: Bezos, Musk, and Zuckerberg.
Yeah, that's right.
It's astounding. It's so clear-cut and it's scary.
Yeah, it's pretty wild stuff.
And then they, pal around with the other psychopaths that are supposedly in charge.
Yeah, that's right. And you see the Zuckerberg and his little placating video to the right, and his new policies on Facebook,
appearance on Joe Rogan, and
he's even if he had any principles, he gave them all up because he wants to maintain his wealth and power. That's how it always goes.
Yeah.
Which I was gonna kind of mention it earlier, was like the theory of means and ends, which is why we always end up in these situations with various powerful people or politicians who go into the system. Like, you got your AOC who goes in and she's like, I'm going to change things. but you can't change things as long as you're part of those things because they change you.
Oh, she's definitely changed. So,
Yeah.
or she is just, letting the mask slip of who she always was.
Yeah, which could be
Another argument. Yeah, she's terrible. So that was the beef I got into today because shared something. Somebody basically excoriated her for all for various fraudulent statements and backpedaling and hypocrisies, and they're like, "Well, you're just a right winger. Don't you know this is a progressive group on Facebook?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm calling out somebody that's not a progressive."
Yeah, that's right.
Come on.
Yeah.
Just,
that even if that person, even if they were a progressive at one point, they
Sure.
have given up those principles. Like, it's just, that's how it works. Every single person who goes in thinking they can change it from the inside doesn't.
you can't. This whole, idea of the social democrats, I mean, that was also a bit of, an idea by Cenk Uygur and Kyle Kalinske, right?
Yeah.
You see where those guys are both at now. I mean, I wouldn't really call Kyle much of a progressive anymore.
Yeah.
Although he pales in comparison next to fucking Cenk and Anna Kasperi. I mean, wow.
The Young Turks are not progressive at all.
I don't think they ever were. I mean, let's just be honest. They saw an opportunity with Bernie and they kind of ran with it.
I know, like, back in like way long time ago, they used to be on the side of like getting money out of politics. Like, but I think Cenk has always been anti-union. Like, so
right, he tried to break his own union and all that.
Yeah.
So,
So how did we expect them to have any good policies?
And then he started taking money from what's the billionaire that was with the Clintons? He's taking money. I can't think of his name. Shoot, but they do like a lot of. They have like various ventures and like gambling. I don't know. I don't know if they have money with Peter Thiel or not too. I'm not sure. Maybe
wouldn't surprise me.
So yeah, but yeah, that's the other thing that's going to be interesting. You got Peter Thiel's man as the vice president, and you got Elon Musk's guy as president. And those two guys hate each other.
That's true. Yeah, that's an interesting dynamic, isn't it?
Yeah. So I don't know how that's going to play. So I can't imagine Musk and Trump's relationship lasting because they're just way too narcissist.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. RFK as well. That's another guy. I mean, they got too many guys that are, used to being, so-called alphas that none of them really are. But
but they get to be in charge because they have the wealth and the power, right? And those guys, when you have all those different guys who are used to being in charge and having nobody ever contradict them, it is going to make a fucking, unless they always agree, it's going to make for some interesting, messing around. But ultimately, Donald Trump is the president, right? So what's Musk going to do but fucking cave, But also, the Pentagon relies on Musk. So.
Yeah. So it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, but also this is why because I've fallen behind on a lot of the current politics.
Sure.
Because I pay more attention to other things. I try to keep up with local groups and stuff, and I think that's where the hope lies, is focusing locally rather than the big picture stuff. Because those guys, I don't know what's going to happen by the end of 4 years, but it could be just like the crumbling of an empire.
Yeah.
Or at least, 4 more years towards the crumbling of an empire.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think we're always, in that decline. We're already in a free fall. It's just, you'd have maybe a slight parachute and just to slow the fall under a Democrat. But I mean, we're still going down. It's still going down in flames. You know what I mean? That's just, how far you go down. That's the other, thing that, anybody critiques Democrats can accuse of. Well, you're just an accelerationist. Yeah, sure. In some ways I am, but, obviously I'd rather not the world burn up, especially, for, my kids and everybody else's kids.
Right.
But I think
am I an accelerationist because I see the crumbling happening and I, think we should do something separate from it? Or is it, because I don't think that's accelerationism. I think that's just, trying to mitigate the damage to common people instead of obtaining or holding up the power structure.
Yeah.
But if somebody wants to call me an accelerationist because I think the U.S. empire needs to be destroyed, then I guess so be it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
What are you going to do?
Well, I'm not in a position to stop it or help it. So
No.
it is what it is.
Just look out for our brothers and sisters and hope for the best,
That's all you can do. Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think, doing things like this on any level as far as education is good.
Yeah.
Because, if you don't know that there's other avenues than just, capitalism, right or left politics, then, what else are you going to do?
Yeah,
you're just going to sink and go along with whatever happens, and you're going to be in a free fall, part of it, or you're going to help push it over the edge.
Something that I find really heartening is conversations with coworkers. Even though I know they're probably voting conservative, but in our day-to-day interaction, these are guys who see the class divide between the boss, the bosses, the rich, and us. And they see the increasing problems. And a couple of them, one of my coworkers, he's fully invested in the idea of starting a community garden in his town. And so maybe he's a conservative guy, but he's doing a thing that helps other people. Right. And regardless of what he calls himself, as long as he's doing that, I think there's a radical element to that. And I think that that's really valuable.
Yeah. I definitely think, you have to reach out to some of those folks. I mean, you don't want to reach out to the Nazis, so to speak. But I mean, you look at somebody like Fred Hampton, I shouldn't call it, it's terrible. Back in the Black Panthers and, had the Rainbow Coalition and
right.
Got, the Young Lords. Oh, I can't think of there were a bunch of kids from rural areas in Appalachia that basically used the Confederate flag as their motto.
Right.
Can't remember what they're called. That's terrible. The Loyal Sons or something like that. But anyways, he met with them. Yeah, but he met with them, basically trying to, hey, look, the struggles that we have, the issues we have are not, all mentioned, buried in race. And a lot of those issues are buried in class. And that's what the problem is. Break that divide and look at labor. We could work together. And, they all came together and, eventually that group, did away with the Confederate flag as well. They were bodyguards for the Panthers at Panthers rallies and vice versa. I'm not saying don't punch Nazis because probably should, but but there's choose who you talk to.
That's right.
How you talk to,
yeah, that's right. You don't have to be friendly with a white supremacist who's
right.
Fuck
the Proud Boys and all those.
Yeah, that's
too,
right. They're basically they're basically cops in a sense. They're class traitors, they're bootlickers. We don't want anything to do with them.
But and to be honest, some of the people that are Trump supporters, and I'm not saying about all these people, but some of the people that are MAGA, or at least they think they're MAGA, they're just hanging on to a lot of the populist things that we all agree with.
Yeah.
And if you actually, you could, come on. If you were a Bernie bro, you had a lot of things in common. The people that wanted to vote for Trump, because it was his idea was a protest against the establishment, because we were all getting fucked, and a lot of people bought into the bullshit that was coming out of Trump's mouth, without realizing, this guy is a snake oil salesman. He always has been.
Yeah.
But if everybody would step back and realize, oh, we actually do have a lot more in common, as far as left and right. I think on those, as opposed to what Cenk and Anna is doing, where, oh yes, left and right have a lot in common because of those woke people.
Right.
Those trans people that are coming here to, come after our kids.
Yeah, it's all the framing, right? Because we do have a lot in common because we're of the same class.
Yeah.
Not because woke people are too woke, or not because, trans people exist. Yeah. We have, our enemy is the rich. Our enemy is our bosses. Yeah. No, for sure. And that's the thing, that if you talk to individuals, you can usually get that across. It doesn't work on social media as far as I can tell. But in your day-to-day interactions, you can usually get somebody to acknowledge that Elon Musk is their enemy. Yeah. And the fact that he supports Donald Trump means Donald Trump is your enemy. So hopefully more conversations like that can happen, and because that's another way that we build community is by getting people to move past these fucking team sports politics and like just getting on board with community organizing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what it is. That's what it all boils down to. Or
Yeah.
that it's all like wrestling.
Yep.
It's all heel turns and bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, we have
right.
the Joe Mansions of the world, right? That it supposedly, if it wasn't for Joe Manchin, Joe Manchin, I would have healthcare. I
Right.
would have all these wonderful things, in the world. But it's people like him, But then he's stepping aside, so then step at Q and Sheldon Sullivan or Cinema, whether her name was. Well, that she lost her thing, so now all of a sudden John Fetterman's now doing the heel turn.
Yeah.
It's they have to have this,
That's
token
right.
bad guy, and at some point you have to think, oh, maybe this is by design.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe it's the team that doesn't want us to fucking get healthcare, not this one guy who happens to have enough power to stop everything in its tracks.
Yeah. Or it's the proletariat boss that said no to the resolution. I guess we can't do anything, even though, we all voted for it. But that overseer guy, I guess somebody should have, ran for the overseer guy this, election. Maybe we would have had a better candidate.
Yeah, shit.
It's just all bullshit.
Yeah, that's right.
All bullshit. Smoke and mirrors.
But we're almost at an hour. So I guess because this is being recorded and because I'm going to publish this, let's tell people where they can find you.
I think I got my Blue Sky there, Seamus Geoghan. I'm on Twitter by that same, or X, I'm sorry, whatever you want to call it. I actually probably publish more on that at the FT Profit still on X. I'm trying to get more on Blue Sky. I really don't want to do much on it. But as far as the Jib, you can find the Jib on YouTube primarily right now. We haven't expanded much. Well, we have started on Twitch, but we haven't put a lot on there. But if you just type in the Jib podcast, you can check out everything. So
right on. Well, it was good talking to you.
Yeah, same here, man.
Really appreciate it. You coming on and discussing the various politics.
Well, thanks for having me. It was a good time.
All right, folks, that's all for now. Thanks for watching or listening. Remember to share this show with your friends or on the social media site that you use the most. Thank you to everyone who supports this show on Patreon. I really appreciate it, and it helps me keep the power on. Thanks to my top patrons, Damian Marie Athope, Some Random Geek, Justin Clark, Dan F. Smith, and Lisa Glass. And thank you to my new patrons. You can stay tuned for the list of patrons at the end to see your name listed. If you aren't a patron and want to contribute, you can do that at patreon.com/skepticalleftist, or you can send a one-time donation to buymeacoffee.com/skepticallefty. I also have a Substack where you can subscribe for free or you can donate per month. And lastly, you can get a paid subscription on Spotify that will give you the same access to bonus content and extra long episodes. If you can't contribute financially, then a like on YouTube or a 5-star rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or one of the podcast review sites like Podchaser would be great. If you want to find more from me, then make sure to check out the show notes for links to all my stuff, or check out my link tree. It's linktr.ee/skepticalleftist. That's where you can find all of my social media spaces and communities. You can also email me at mindofaskepticalleftist@gmail.com. Thanks so much for listening or watching. Make sure to leave a comment on the video, join your local org, print off some posters or pamphlets, and spread the propaganda.